Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant. Today, I'm going to be covering this book, Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance. This book is written by Ruth Emmy Lang and is copyright 2017. I purchased this book at Coas Books a couple years ago, I want to say mid to late 2023, and it's been sitting on my shelves for a while. I read it a couple months ago, and that isn't to say that I'm catching up on my backlog or anything like that, but I just wanted to cover this for, I don't know, it was on my shelf, one of the first ones I saw, and I figured I might as well. This is not my usual kind of story. It was on the fantasy sci-fi shelves at Coas Books, but it's very soft fantasy. How do I put it? The fantasy is it's set in the real world. I've read and reviewed and ranted about a couple books like that. This one is akin to the vibes in Charles DeLint's books. But Charles DeLint, when he does modern fantasy kind of things, what he's doing is someone in the real world interacts with some fantasy elements. And in this case, the book centers around multiple humans' interactions with a absurdly magical individual. Waylon Gray is his name, and he is an orphan and magical. When he cries, he causes blizzards, and when he's upset, he can cause like a thunderstorm and tornadoes. And when it rains, sometimes it doesn't rain over him. And eventually, he ends up finding a pig with a horn, and he decides that this pig must be magical, and it evidently is, and he decides to raise it. But he takes it with him wherever he goes after that, and the story kind of follows Waylon's own life history. And it opens in a fun way. It's Waylon, who is now a middle-aged man, very bearded, very hairy, living in an abandoned house, and a kid that lives near to where he is staying has heard about this old man in this abandoned area, and on a dare is told to go into the house and come back. And so I think there's another aspect to that dare. But the kid ends up meeting Waylon and then going back and repeatedly going to visit Waylon and hear his stories. And each story is a different snippet of Waylon's life, whether it's when he is an orphan living in the woods with a pack of wolves, or after that, when he is adopted by a church pastor and his very big family. It then jumps around to when Waylon is an adult and he's working odd jobs and has a business with his magic pig. And in that story, there's this interaction where a mayor, the guy, his ancestors, his whole family's been mayors for, his father was a mayor for a long time, grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather along the Gulf Coast. And there is a hurricane threatening to flood the entire town. And the mayor, newly sworn in, wants to protect his town. And so he ends up finding Waylon in the newspapers and goes to him and hires him and spends some of the mayor's budget for it. And when it is found out that he spent some of the town's money, when he finds out that when his dad, the former mayor, finds out that he spent his money in that way, he is chastised. The mayor, the younger mayor, ends up effectively rejecting Waylon And Waylon is also interacting with an old friend of his. When he was an orphan, when he was living with that pack of wolves, one of the things he was also doing was interacting with a butcher's daughter. And that daughter then runs away from home to live with Waylon, who, both of them are kids, like 8 or 9. So they run off into the woods, and the two kids run away because Waylon no longer has any money. He used up all the money his parents had. He accidentally caused all the deer in the area to leave, and so with no meat for the wolf pack and with no money for more meat, he ends up leaving with the wolf pack and this girl. And then it is when they are discovered by a farmer with the wolf mother in this pack attacking a calf. He and the girl are found and she was returned to her family, and Waylon was returned to, or was then adopted by that pastor. And so later on in his life, Waylon meets that girl again. Now she is a biologist, and she is in an unhappy relationship. And she meets Waylon again, and there's a few weeks of blissful reunion. And Waylon is protecting the town from the hurricane, and he does his job that he was paid for, even if none of the rest of the people, aside from the mayor who hired him, believe that he had any hand in protecting the town. But then Waylon and his girl she ends up accepting a position as a wolf researcher, which is a highly coveted position, and Waylon goes with her, and then additional magical things happen. So, like, and mind you, the context again is that Waylon is explaining this whole life story to this kid that is visiting him, and the Waylon is able to speak to the birds. He's able to coax the spiders into weaving thick webbing on the roof so that he doesn't have to pay for a roofer. And so he's able to tell the birds, don't step in that webbing, it'll get you stuck. And that's how that kid ends up really meeting Waylon. Well, other magical things happen, including the wolf research, which is up in Montana. Waylon wants to work an honest job and not one that is kind of hokey magic. So he ends up being hired by a logging company, and they clear a plot of land, and then the next day the trees are back. And Waylon effectively is causing these plants to grow really quickly. Not that he's really trying to, but they just do in his presence. And so the foreman and the others that he works with suspect something's going on, and when he is confronted and when he does feel alienated in a place that he started feeling like he could call home, he gets upset, and this causes a blizzard. And this blizzard, this unexpected, unseasonably strong blizzard, shows up and almost causes his lover to die of hypothermia. And so, realizing that he is a danger to the people around him, he leaves once again. This time he leaves his pig with his lover, and the lover's name is Mary. So he ends up accidentally summoning a really powerful blizzard. It causes Mary to become hypothermic. She almost dies in that blizzard, and then he leaves because he doesn't feel like he can be safe around other people. And he proceeds to leave his pig with Mary and then runs away. Eventually he finds one of his adoptive sisters from when he was with that pastor's family, and that adoptive sister has a family now, and they have some fun interactions. He shows up as an uncle, and one of his adopted sister's kids believes in magic and believes in a lot of the kinds of things that Waylon can do. And so Waylon works with him to try and learn how to control some of Waylon's power and how to channel it in productive ways, which is a really cute thing. He ends up really connecting with this kid. And then, the it's all these different stories. Well, I was here in this year, I was there in that year, back and forth, back and forth. It's really charming though, because at each point Waylon is trying to just have a normal life, and each time something magical at the end of that segment of the story causes him to leave. And that was a interesting take on a uniquely magical child. I liked this book. Not enough that I'm going to hold on to it for long. I paid $6.98 for it, and I don't know, it's just probably going to go back into the used book system. Now that I read it, now that I've ranted about it, I don't really have any further purpose for it. It wasn't boring, but it wasn't so good I want to hold on to it. And there's not like a continuation of this story either. It's just a singular story about his life. So overall, if you like soft fantasy kinds of stories, this is going to be a good pickup for you. Otherwise, this may be a bit more sluggish or uninteresting. It's not high fantasy, it's not swords and sorcery like some of the other fantasy stories I cover. It's very mellow, but at the same time wholesome. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, I would recommend picking up Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance. And I've seen this at many used bookstores. I don't know if that is a sign that a lot of people think it's mediocre or bad, but I have seen it in various places, so it shouldn't be too hard to find it, especially if you frequent used bookstores. So, yeah, this one was a bit of a shorter one, but it didn't have too much that I wanted to rant about aside from the story and my thoughts on that story and how it was good enough. So, yeah. My name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another used book rant.